Okay, welcome to the next video. Chapter 321. Okay, welcome to the next video, Chapter 9, Clausal Categories. In this video clip, we are going to talk about the clause. So, let's start by the first definition. What are clauses? So, whenever we talk about clause are the group of related words. Unlike phrasal category, unlike phrase also a group of words. However, the difference is that it will be clause. Once in that structure, in that group of words, you have noun phrase that function as subject, and you have verb phrase that function as predicate, the action part. So let's have a look at the types of the clause. So we have two types of the clause, independent clause and dependent clause. 100% of the time, independent clause always function as a main clause. And the dependent clause, we can call it another name, subordinate clause. So let's start by independent clause first. Independent clause is a clause that can stand alone as a complete grammatical structure, as a complete grammatical sentence, which means independent clause can be a sentence by itself. For example, like David swam, we have the subject David, and we have swam as the predicate part. And also, like they attend the workshop on how to write a good essay at the Sid Resort Hotel 2 weeks ago. So we have the subject they, and we have the predicate part, attend the workshop on how to write a good essay at the Sid Resort Hotel 2 weeks ago as the predicate part. Or can play tennis with friends and they have dinner together every Friday. So in this case, we have two independent clauses, which are can play tennis with friends. So we have can as the subject, and we have play tennis with friends as the predicate part. And the second independent clause is they have dinner together every Friday. So we have they as the subject and have dinner together every Friday as the predicate. Or you can take my car, but you will have to bring it back tomorrow. I've got to go to the airport. So we have three independent clauses here. The first one, you can take my car. The second one, you will have to bring it back tomorrow. And the next one, the last one, I've got to go to the airport. So please note it down here. We can link the sentence with semicolon like this. So it's the we can use it like the word and. So it's like just one way to combine two sentences, two clauses, two independent clause together. Okay, so apart from independent clause, we also have dependent clauses. So a dependent clause or a subordinate clause is a clause that cannot stand alone as a complete sentence. It must be attached with independent clause in order to be a full grammatical sentence. So we have three functions of dependent clause, which are nominal clause, function as noun, dependent clause functioning as noun. Adjectival clause is the dependent clause functioning as adjective. And the last one, adverbial clause, is the dependent clause function as adverb. So let's get started by nominal clause first. Nominal clause is a dependent clause that acts itself like a noun. That's why we call it nominal noun. So it can function as a, what kind of word it should start from. I don't want you to remember this since this word is interchangeable between other function as well. But what I would like you to focus is that I would like you to know the first thing, know that this one is the dependent clause and know what kind of function is function in that sentence, in that structure. So once again, as I remind you guys, nominal clause is functioning as a noun. So what a noun can do, that nominal clause can do that too. So nominal clause can function as subject, complement, direct object, indirect object, or complement of preposition. So here is an example, like a child asks why she behaves so badly. So why she behaves so badly is the dependent clause, and the reason that we classify the function as nominal clause because it functions as the object of the verb ask. Like a child asks what? Oh, asks why she behaves so badly. So we can substitute it with like the noun phrase like the child asked the question. So we know that like in this position it must be like something that functioning like a noun that like to be the object of the verb ask. Or whoever wins the presidential election, the Middle East loses. So whoever wins the presidential election is a nominal clause that functioning as the object of the verb loses. So let me kind of like structure it again so you can see it clearly. So actually this sentence come from this sentence. We just like switch the position. So it comes from the sentence like the Middle East loses whoever wins the presidential election. So whoever wins the presidential election functioning as the object of the verb loss. That's why we classify whoever wins the presidential election as the nominal clauses. More example like the doctor assured me that I wouldn't feel any pain. So that I wouldn't feel any pain is the nominal clause that functioning as direct object of the verb assured. No, the doctor assured that I wouldn't feel any pain and assured that information to me. So that I wouldn't feel any pain is a direct object, and me here is the indirect object. Okay. Okay, so more example, nominal clause can function as a subject as well, like here. So in this side it is clause, and in this side it is the counterpart structure in the noun phrase or pronoun. So we're going to focus here. So what she said was unclear. So what she said is a nominal clause. We have the subject she and we have the verb part said. So what she said is nominal clause functioning as a subject of this sentence since it's followed by the verb phrase was unclear. And nominal clause can function as the complement as well, like in this example. Another example is that the care for the severely mentally ill in the community has failed. So that blah 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 until has failed, it is the nominal clause functioning as a complement of the verb to be is here. And yeah, we also have direct object and indirect object, as I also like showed the example for you before. And nominal clause can function as the object or preposition. For example, like the doctor will certainly inquire about whether you have had any physical changes in recent year. So we have the subject you and we have predicate part have had any physical changes in recent year. So together it is a clause, and we classify it as nominal clause because it functions as the object or preposition about here. Okay, so the nominal clause can be reduced the form as well into gerundive verb form and infinitive verb form. So gerundive verb form, it is a verb phrase that functioning that we have like gerund in the front, and infinitive verb form, yeah, it is the like it comes from nominal clause before, but we just reduce it to be verb infinitive. Okay, so gerundive verb phrase or infinitive verb phrase, we classify it as verb phrase that functioning like a noun. Okay, so for example here, like we have the nominal clause. They admit that they have problem at school. So that they have problem at school is a dependent clause since we have subject they and have predicate have problems at school. So altogether, we classify that they have problem at school as the nominal clause because it functions as the object of the verb admit. Okay, and in this case, we can shorten the form into gerundive verb phrase into they admit having problems at school. So having problem at school, it is gerundive verb phrase that functioning as the object of the verb admits. Another example, like I suggested that John buy a less expensive car. So John is a subject, buy a less expensive car is the verb phrase. So together it is the dependent clause. Since it functions as the object of the verb suggested, we can reduce it into the gerundive verb phrase like I suggested John's buying a less expensive car. Or that they signed the peace treaty was important. So in this case, it is the nominal clause functioning as the subject of this sentence was important. So we can reduce it into like their signing of the peace treaty was important. Apart from reducing to gerundive verb phrase, we can also reduce it into infinitive verb form. Like I hope that I get this job. So that I get this job is a nominal clause functioning as the object of the verb hope. We can reduce it into I hope to get this job. Or they recommended that I stay in bed and drink lots of water. So that I stay in bed and drink lots of water is the nominal clause functioning as the object of the verb recommended, and we reduce it into they recommended me to stay in bed and drink lots of water. Infinitive verb form to stay in bed and drink lots of water. Or another example, like she wondered how she could learn English faster. So how she could learn English faster is the nominal clause. It functions as the object of the verb wonder. So we can reduce it into she wondered how to learn English faster. So how to learn English faster is the infinitive verb phrase that functioning as the object of the verb wondered. Apart from nominal clause, dependent clause can functioning as adjectival clause as well. Adjectival clause come from the as its name, adjective. So adjectival clause is a type of dependent clause that function as the noun modifier. So whenever you see that kind of dependent clause are modifying the noun, it is the adjectival clause. For example, like I tell you about a woman who lives next door. So who lives next door is the dependent clause since we have subject who and lives next door is the predicate part. So who lives next door is the adjectival clause modify woman. Which woman? Oh, the woman who lives next door. Or another example, like do you see the cat which is lying on the roof? So which is lying on the roof is the adjectival clause. We have a subject which and we have the predicate part. Is lying on the roof. So which is lying on the roof is the adjectival clause since it modify cat, which is cat is noun. And also I don't like the table that stand in the kitchen. So that stand in the kitchen is an adjectival clause since it modify table. What kind of table? Oh, the table that stands in the kitchen. And the last one, I can link you to the shop where I bought it. So where I bought it, we have subject I and we have the predicate part bought it. So where I bought it modify shop. Which shop? Oh, the shop where I bought it. So adjectival clause. For the adjectival clause, okay, the adjectival clause can be reduced if it modifies like the object of the independent clause. For example, in this case, I was invited by the professor whom I met at the conference. So whom I met at the conference is the adjectival clause modify the professor. So we can omit the word whom. So we can say that I was invited by the professor I met at the conference. Or that's the car which I am thinking about buying. So we can omit the word which in the adjectival clause which I am thinking about buying. Since which I am thinking about buying, it modifies car, which is object. So we can reduce it into that's the car I am thinking about buying. Okay, so there is a little a bit of information here, like the news that spread quickly in the city shocked all of us, and the news that she was dead shocked all of us. As you can see in the item A, the news that spread quickly, so that already modified news, and that is a subject of the verb phrase spread quickly, since we don't have any pronoun here, so we will call that here as the relative pronoun. Apart from that, we can have with, who, whom, where as well, as long as it's that kind of seems like conjunction functioning as the subject of the dependent clause as well, we will call it relative clause. However, if you can see here in the item B, the news that she was dead shocked all of us, so we have the subject she as well. So definitely that here will not be the relative pronoun, since we already have the pronoun she functioning as subject of the adjectival clause here. So what can we call that here? We will call it complementizer. We use it to complete to join adjectival clause, to join the dependent clause with the main clause, independent clause. So be careful whenever we have another pronoun after that will turn to be the complementizer. But whenever we have that to be the one that join two clauses together and to be the subject of the dependent clause, we call that as the relative pronoun. And next we move to adverbial clause. So to remind you guys again, we have three types of dependent clause: nominal, adjectival, and the last one that we are going to talk about is adverbial clause. Adverbial clause, or as you can may notice, it functions as adverb. So adverbial clause modify the main clause, the independent clause. So adverbial clause, it might like the complex sentence that you guys already familiar with. So for example, adverbial clause like whenever he comes, we go to have lunch at E1. So whenever he comes is the adverbial clause because it functions as the modifier of the independent clause, we go to have lunch at E1. It didn't modify now it didn't become the subject itself, but it would rather modify the independent clause that come after it. So that's why we classify whenever he comes as the adverbial clause. And 40, the first time I went to New York, I was intimidated by the city. So the first time I went to New York is the adverbial clause, modify the whole clause after that. Or the second time I played tennis, modify I began to have fun. So the second time I played tennis is the adverbial clause. Or by the time he finished, I had cooked dinner. So by the time he finished is the adverbial clause, modify the whole main clause, I had cooked dinner. And the adverbial clause can be reduced as well. It can reduce into gerundive verb phrase, expressing the same idea. We can reduce the adverbial clause if and only if the subject of the both clause are the same. The subject of the adverbial clause and the subject of the main clause are the same. And in that case, it still carry the same meaning. For example, before I talked to you, I had never understood that formula. Before I talked to you is the adverbial clause, since it modified the main clause. I had never understood that formula. And in this case, we can reduce adverbial clause to be gerundive verb phrase. Since before I talked to you and I had never understood that formula have the same subject, so we can reduce before I talk to you to be before talking to you. And next, Barack Obama has had lots of struggles while he has been president of the US. So in this case, we have the same idea. We have the same subject, Barack Obama and he. We can reduce it into Barack Obama has had lots of struggle while having been president of the US. The reason that we can reduce only if and only if the subject of both clauses are the same, because if it's not the same, like in this case, Barack Obama has had a lot of struggle while Ajanat has been president of the US, if I reduce it definitely the subject of the subject of the adverbial clause is like is gone, right? And the meaning is like not carry the same meaning. Like Barack Obama has had a lot of struggle while having been president of the US. In this case, the subject alternate is lost and the sense of meaning is lost too. Okay, and that's all for the chapter 9 clausal categories. If you still have any question, feel free to email me, or you can like watch it over and over again. But yeah, if it's still questionable, feel free to contact me through my email. And see you in the next video clip, sentential categories.